Thank you for staying with us. The twin challenge of Naira and fuel scarcity in Africa's most populous nation has continued to aggravate the cost of living of cash-strapped Nigerians as people are spending valuable time queuing in front of automated teller machines, experiencing exorbitant charges from point-of-sales operators, and inability to get money for transportation. The situation has eroded the purchasing power of consumers who are already dealing with inflationary pressures at 17-year high. Meanwhile, the scarcity of petrol, which has been prolonged since the fourth quarter of last year, has seen its pump price risen to about 300 naira per litre from 170 naira. Only 500 naira and 600 naira in some cases. This has led to long queues across petrol stations and hiking food and transport costs across the country. A development many analysts say will largely impact the easing of the country's inflation rate, most likely plunge more Nigerians into poverty. Well, let's talk more about this. And to do justice to this, I introduced him earlier, but he's live in the studio. He's a chartered accountant and an expert in the oil and gas industry. Uade Ahime, thank you so much for your time. It's good to see you.
It's always good to see you. And I'm glad we're talking about oil, we're talking about Naira. Because they go hand in hand.
I tell you, you know, and you know, that is life.
That's life. So you need the Naira to buy the oil. You need the oil to chase after the things that you have to do so that you can get the Naira. So that's just life.
What have you seen? Tell me your experience, because I like us to be very practical about this. For me, I'm not happy with what I have seen. I don't know.
Well, but last time I was here, I actually did tell you that it was high time that they took out subsidy. And one of the, just before we ended that discussion, one of the things I said was maybe we should start to, just face it out gradually. And at that point, I said 200 naira would have been, this was October, thereabout, and the first scarcity had just started. And I think I mentioned in there that it was going to continue. And what you now find out is that by Christmas, those petroleum marketers couldn't afford to put money into it. Exchange rate was high, bank MPR was going up. It's gone up consecutively, yes. 1 basis point for the last 3 months. Yeah. It's gone from
14 to 17 at the moment.
17.5. It went from 14 to 14.5, and then 15.5, 16.5, 17.5, and inflation is just galloping. Yeah. It's heading in the direction of 22%. So these are the things that we're talking about. So when you consider all that, now you've moved it from 170 to 185, between 170 and 185 to 175 to 185. What's the impact? There's still no impact.
No impact.
There won't be an impact. So what you find is those who buy, the major marketers might be able to do that, because when it comes into mostly own their depot.
Yeah.
But if I buy if I'm taking off stock from those who supply it into the market at 200 naira or at 190 naira, and then I do all the logistics, you'd expect me to sell it at 185 to. I have bank facilities to run. Yes. So what you see and the average you come out to see, which is in Lagos, which is probably the cheapest places, some people might exploit that opportunity. But it's coming between 215, 230. That's what you see. Some stations will push it to 240, 250. But now you're beginning to see what the average should come out to be like. And you're going to other states and you're seeing some states, no fuel at all, 600 naira per litre, 350. I was listening to a program yesterday, and on the average in Edo State, in Benin, it was 300, 350. And they're even trying and see, okay, can we get it from the NNPC stations? But everybody will tell you, oh, the refineries are not working. We heard today again that there's been another signature on the paper.
Signature. I think that's for Kaduna Refinery or something.
That has been running
with the WHO or something.
The WHO is currently doing the worry on. So and that's it. And now when you link that to the like I said, you need the Naira to chase the oil. And when you get the oil, you need the oil to chase the Naira. And that's where we are now. And both sides are nothing. Exactly. And it's
what do you think about the implementation of that? Let's stay with the Naira thing. Something seems to be wrong.
I've heard over and over again, and CBN as the what's it called, the referee, should have ensured that this, all the things were put in place. But the fact of the matter is that the mere fact that they were going to change the currency, there was going to be issue of cash trap. It happened in India in 2016. the irony of India's zone was the Prime Minister announced at 8:30, and at 12 midnight, the currency was no longer legal. So you had to take it to the bank. So there was a bit of time. But what I think, in my own opinion, and based on my experience in banking, is this. First and foremost, the amount of money, you're trying to take out about 2.3 trillion from the economy in old currency, thereabout. Closely to that because of the high denomination bills. Second part is you're going to bring in these new currencies, but it will never be as high as the 2.3 trillion that you're taking out. Because in the first 6 weeks, about $1 trillion had gone out of the system into the banking system, and it was staying there. Now, CBN had given an instruction, January 9, from December 15, the new currency will come out, you can pay it. So I guess the first tranche that came out, I don't know where they paid it to, or who they paid it to, whether they paid it out, because everybody says, oh, the banks didn't get it. But we've seen on social media and some other places, this same Naira, the abuse of this same Naira, the abuse of the new notes. So what I think should have been done is that the committee of bankers should have sat down and made an arrangement of say, okay, you know what, we're not going to pay it over the counter. We'll try as much as possible to, put it into the ATM so that the everyday Nigerian, and then you set the limits for how much you can. Like I said, it was done in India, and that's what was done. So limits were set on a weekly basis. It was, as cash continued to flow into the system, it became, it made it easier. And let's also look at Nigeria. When you look at Nigeria's cash spending, in the real sense of it, it seals now, what's it called? Periods of, what's it called? So religious festivities, and every 4 years.
Yeah.
In some states, so but that's it. Now, when you take out that humongous amount of cash, what do you expect? Most of these transactions, of course, and let nobody think that I'm trying to encourage people shouldn't, that I'm trying to encourage money politics. No, but politicians are going to campaign. People are going to provide the venues, they're going to pay for them. Yeah. People are going to mobilize people, they're going to pay for them. Yes. Now, that is where the infrastructure that is required, and like I said, and I continue to say, maintain, is that this has shown that the financial services providers have not invested enough in infrastructure development. So you transfer. So
they are choked at the moment. I think
yes,
so.
Because
it's so heavy, they cannot even.
So because
you've
been riding all this time.
Yeah.
On it's so much cash. It's so much cash. So now it's an opportunity for us to invest in this infrastructure in the financial services space. Collaborations need to start going on, because you see a lot of agents and a number of the fintechs who are providing small solutions within. And when people say, when you look at India, for instance, that this happened in 2016, it happened in November 2016, and within 7 weeks, they had mopped up the cash, 99.3% of the cash that they wanted to mop up. Now, the question is this. India's population is about 1.2, 1.3 billion. Yeah. India's population that lives in non-banking or non-banking provision services, the population is larger than Nigeria's own. But we saw a growth, a 53 to almost 60% growth in digital and cashless banking in India within that space of 7 weeks. So it's about preparing yourself for the infrastructure. It's very easy. Even now, people have, and that's one of the things that a lot of people who were against this, a lot of the average Nigerians who were against it, were saying, oh, they should invest in the infrastructure. We can't wait for the businesses to invest in infrastructure for us or for the government to come out with a policy. Otherwise, and when we think about it, we've been on this cashless policy for 10 years.
Yeah.
Started with Sanusi. But we seem to have more cash in circulation.
Nigeria seems to still be a cash-based or cash transactional environment. Let's go back to the issue around fuel scarcity again. The last time we discussed, we talked about this involvement of too much of dollarized payments along the value chain.
I'm not sure.
What is happening along that?
I'm not sure it has changed.
And at this time, with the figures I saw yesterday, it seems like the Naira is getting a bash in that market.
It is. The Naira seems to be,
About 750 or something around the moment. And it was 740 before.
It was, so it went up and then came back and stabilized,
it went out at time,
and stabilized at about 750.
Yes.
Then over time,
the impact of this
it went to 740.
Oil market.
However, over the last couple of weeks, it's just the trend is going up. It's moved from 740 to 750 to 758. It's heading towards the 780 mark, and that's where some people say it might probably end just by the election. And the impact on it is this: we can't even feel the effects of the election campaigns within the system. Why? Because with what you think is so much activities, there is no transaction really going on, because everybody has always based transaction on cash. Then two, in terms of logistics, it's become so difficult for people to even move from one place to the other. So even if I wanted to attend a campaign rally, the cost of transportation has gone up. On the average now, from Obalende to Yaba is now 500 naira, what used to be 300 naira. And all in this space. And we're losing so much in terms of time, in terms of value to the economy. I'm sure when the economy starts to calculate how much we've lost, for people who just wake up in the morning and the only work they do is queue at the petrol station. So the impact is humongous. I won't be surprised if at the end of this quarter, when the numbers come out, then they're just going to go down.
Clearly, I know that we'll have that impact on the numbers that we should expect, since NNPC still remains the sole importer. I think they give some companies the capacity to also bring in these products, because at the time.
So what does happen is this: NNPC is the sole importer, but they do work with, of course, you work with partners who help you bring in and refineries who also have partners, and they all work together to come in. But everything comes to the doorstep of NNPC before it goes out. And like I said, it's easier for the major marketers. They've been well established. They have their depots. So the cost, even the cost of moving it or bringing it into their depots, is when you compare it to the independent marketers, is not as, they might be able to bear some of it. And when at the end of the day you're still not getting your subsidy as at when due, like I said, it's money. Banks are just 17.5.
Yes,
that's the MPR. Inflation at 22%. I was watching the news just as I was sitting down. Moody has downgraded the banks again. This is the second time in 6 months.
Second time, yes, October and now.
It just means, and why? It's because of the currency against the dollar. So a lot of their dollar exposure, nobody's even sure that the banks can. And
so with all of this, it looks bleak, but what is your outlook, should we say, for the entire space, even the oil and gas space, and of course the financial space, because it's like those two sectors are the most hit in all of this.
And I'm continually being positive about it, because when you create the opportunity for investors to come in and have the free space to play the game, nobody is going to work in a regulated market space where if I put ₦1 billion into it, somebody is going to tell me how I'm going to collect my 1 billion. That's one. Two, what you will find is the so-called excess demand. Are they really going to be there? So all the monies that we're talking about, subsidy payments and all, we will actually be able to come into proper perspective of how much petrol. Because as a businessman, you don't want to bring one ship of what's it called that you plan. Oh, well, let me sell it in 1 month, and then you find out that it's stuck in your tank farm for the next 3 months. Money is going down, and you're not making money. And so the outlook is positive. Like I said, it's an election year. I just believe, and this is my belief, that whoever wins the election, Nigeria is just going to be going up in the trajectory. People are waiting. All the candidates are economic friendly, rather than, and they're also business friendly. So they're looking for the kind of partnerships that will help bring in new investments into Nigeria. In the financial services space, I see huge opportunities for collaborations, huge small businesses who are collaborating with, putting, whether it's the agents within different locations and helping them, provide that service. Because the fact of the matter is that the banks need these people, especially in the so-called remote areas. And let's not be deceived and think that those people don't use what's it called. I did some work with an organization last year, and I know what is happening and how much they're putting, especially in the north, for female farmers, for farmers in general, just to use their phone and be able to communicate. So Nigeria's is bright. 2023, I believe, is going to be a good year.